Be consistent, think wealth. Because wealth is not a one-time event, it's a rhythm, a disciplined flow of choices that move in alignment with long-term purpose. Most people are chasing intensity. They look for one big win, one lucky break, one powerful moment that will change everything. But that's not how money works. That's not how wealth is built. Real wealth doesn't respond to emotion. It doesn't care how passionate you feel for a day. It's not interested in short-lived motivation. What wealth respects, what it bows to, is consistency. Quiet, daily, non-negotiable consistency. The world is filled with people who start strong but finish nothing. They get excited on Monday and burned out by Friday. They make a plan, talk about it, feel powerful for a moment, but they don't follow through. And that's the trap. It's not about how hard you try once. It's about how long you can stay in the game without giving up. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's quiet. It's daily. And it's powerful. You see, wealth is a result. It's the consequence of alignment. When your thoughts, your habits, your discipline, and your focus all point in the same direction over time, wealth begins to build, but that only happens when you stop changing directions. Every time you get distracted, you reset your progress. Every time you chase a new idea without mastering the first one, you dilute your power. And every time you break your own promises, you teach yourself that you can't be trusted. Consistency builds trust. First in yourself, then in others, and eventually with the universe of opportunity. When you are consistent, people begin to believe in you. Doors open, systems respond, energy gathers. That's why the wealthiest people in the world don't have to shout. They move with calm energy because their actions have already created momentum. And that momentum came from doing the same things over and over again, long before results showed up. Most people get bored too quickly. They try something for a week, and when it doesn't explode, they say it didn't work. But here's the truth. It didn't work because they didn't work it long enough. Consistency isn't just about showing up. It's about showing up with purpose, showing up with patience, showing up when no one is watching, showing up when it's hard, showing up even when your mind screams to quit. That's where wealth begins, not in excitement, but in discipline. Consistency isn't natural. It's a decision. A daily decision to act based on vision, not emotion. Because emotions lie, they will tell you to stop when you're tired, quit when you're frustrated, or delay when you feel unsure. But your vision, your true vision of the life you want, is constant. And when you allow that vision to control your behavior instead of how you feel in the moment, everything begins to change. You become dangerous. Not because of what you say, but because of what you keep doing. Most people are motivated for a moment, but the wealthy are devoted for a lifetime. That's the difference. You don't need more talent. You don't need more resources. What you need is consistency with what you already have. Use what's in your hands. Use the hours you waste scrolling. Use the energy you spend doubting. Turn all that into fuel. Get consistent. Because once you lock in, wealth has no choice but to follow. Consistency makes you reliable. It makes you trustworthy. It builds a reputation, and more than anything, it builds results. Slowly at first, almost invisible. But if you stay in alignment, those small, consistent actions begin to create unstoppable momentum. You'll look back one day and realize the gap between you and everyone else wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't timing. It was simply that you didn't stop. You didn't get distracted. You didn't chase a new high. You stayed with the process. You honored the mission. And wealth rewarded you for it. So if you want to grow money, don't chase speed, chase consistency. Train your mind to think long, train your habits to repeat with discipline, and train your emotions to sit down and listen to your vision. Because the truth is simple. Money grows for those who do, but wealth multiplies for those who never stop. Wealth starts in the mind. Before it shows up in your account, it must first exist in your thoughts. Most people want to change their outer world, but they ignore the power of their inner dialogue. The truth is, the thoughts you entertain all day are programming your financial reality. If you constantly think about lack, you attract more scarcity. If your thoughts are filled with fear, doubt, and worry, your results will match that energy. You cannot think failure and walk into success. You cannot think small and live big. Every dollar you earn, every opportunity that shows up, every connection you make, it all begins with the frequency of your thinking. Your mind is a transmitter. It sends out a signal. That signal is based on your beliefs, your expectations, and your dominant thoughts. And here's the part most people ignore. The signal you send is the reality you receive. If you walk through life expecting struggle, you'll find it everywhere. But if you program your mind to think wealth, opportunities start appearing where you once saw obstacles. That's not magic. It's alignment. Your thinking shapes your focus, and your focus shapes your choices. Over time, those choices become your results. To think wealth means you stop glorifying survival. You stop normalizing stress. You stop believing that money is hard to get. That belief system is a mental prison, and most people are stuck in it for life. They believe money only comes to a lucky few. They believe rich people are different. They believe success is for others. But wealth doesn't care about your background. It only responds to your consistency and your mindset. If your thoughts are aligned with abundance, action becomes natural. Risk becomes a strategy, not a fear, and discipline becomes your language. The mind must be trained daily, just like a muscle that gets stronger the more you feed it with clarity and repetition. Wealthy minds aren't just born, they are built. Built through practice, built through focus, built by deleting toxic thoughts and replacing them with empowering ones. So train your mind to think in terms of value, growth, and possibility. Speak the language of wealth internally, even when your reality hasn't caught up yet, because eventually your world will mirror your thinking. And when your thoughts stay loyal to wealth, rich results will follow. Most people want the fruit without planting the seed. They want the rewards without doing the quiet, boring work that creates them. But wealth doesn't work like that. It is not something you chase, it's something you grow. And like any real harvest, it begins with planting, day by day, action by action, thought by thought. Every decision you make is a seed. Every habit you repeat is a seed. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, focus over distraction, long-term over short-term, you are planting the seeds of future wealth. But here's the truth. Most people are too focused on the outcome to honor the process. They keep digging up their seeds to check if something is growing. They try something for a few weeks, and when they don't see instant results, they quit. But you don't grow wealth by watching it. You grow it by trusting the process, by being faithful to your actions, even when the results are invisible. Because the early stages of wealth are always silent. There is no applause, no recognition, just quiet work, quiet repetition, quiet belief. Every hour you invest wisely, every time you say no to an unnecessary purchase, every minute you spend learning a valuable skill, those are seeds, seeds of wealth. And like nature, these seeds take time to grow. They need consistency. They need patience. They need you to keep going when it feels like nothing is happening, because something is happening below the surface, inside your habits, within your mind. Your future is forming, even if you can't see it yet. So stop chasing quick fruit. Stop switching paths every time things get uncomfortable. Pick your garden, pick your mission, and plant with everything you've got. Because if you stay faithful to the process, the fruit will come, not immediately, but inevitably. The harvest is always reserved for those who never stop planting. And one day, while others are still chasing, you'll be the one receiving. Not because you were lucky, but because you were loyal to your vision long enough for it to become real. Discipline is the greatest shortcut to wealth, but it's the one shortcut people refuse to take. Everyone's looking for the fastest path, the easiest way, the secret hack. But the real secret is not hidden. It's just ignored. Discipline is not flashy. It doesn't give instant dopamine, but it creates the results people spend their lives wishing for. The truth is, most people know what to do. They know what habits will take them forward, but they don't do them, not because they can't, but because they won't. And that difference defines everything. Without discipline, ambition dies in your mouth. Without discipline, knowledge is just noise. Without discipline, even your best plans collapse under pressure. Wealth is not about what you want. It's about what you're willing to repeat when no one's watching. It's about what you do when motivation disappears. Because motivation is emotional, but discipline is structural. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your growth. You don't need more motivation. You need more structure. You need standards that don't change with your mood. Most people are loyal to how they feel. They move when they're excited. They stop when they're tired. They work when it's convenient, and they expect results. But wealth doesn't show up for convenience. It shows up for commitment. The disciplined person will always outlast the talented one, because discipline wins long after emotions fade. It is not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the necessary things repeatedly, no matter what's happening around you. It's about choosing what's right over what's easy day after day until the compound effect takes over. Discipline is rare. That's why wealth is rare. It's not that you don't have enough time. It's that you're not disciplined with the time you have. It's not that you don't have enough energy. It's that your energy is scattered. Discipline collects your power. It focuses your actions. It builds resilience, and most importantly, it builds trust in yourself. Because every time you stay consistent with your vision, you prove that you are becoming the kind of person wealth is attracted to. Discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. And the people who embrace it will always rise above those who avoid it. Wealth is not built in a day. It is built in the invisible moments, in the habits that seem small, in the decisions that don't feel significant at first. That's what makes the process so deceptive. The biggest financial breakthroughs are often the result of tiny, consistent actions done over and over again, without applause, without rewards, and without recognition. It's what you do every single day that determines the life you build. Not once in a while, not when it's convenient, but daily, quietly, relentlessly. Wealth rewards those who understand this principle. Every time you choose to save instead of spend unnecessarily, you are laying a brick. Every time you read instead of scroll, invest instead of impulse buy, work instead of procrastinate, you are building a structure most people will never see coming. These aren't just habits, they are invisible bricks in a financial foundation. Most people don't have a money problem, they have a consistency problem. They don't stick with the right habits long enough for the results to stack up. And so they keep starting over. Success doesn't need to shout. Real progress is quiet. It happens in your routine. It's the choice to wake up early to track your spending, to set aside money for your future instead of chasing temporary highs. It's the choice to study a skill after work, to keep building that business even when the growth is slow. These small acts don't look like wealth at first, but that's because wealth takes time to reveal itself. By the time others notice your success, the work has already been done for years in silence. The compound effect is always working. It works for you when you're consistent and against you when you're careless. The same way wealth grows slowly and then suddenly poverty creeps in slowly and then collapses quickly. Your habits decide which direction you're moving in, whether you realize it or not. So build the habits that create momentum. Protect your discipline. Repeat the actions that stack value. Because even when it feels like nothing is happening, everything is happening. And when the day comes where it all clicks, it won't be an accident. It will be the reward for everything you did when no one was watching. Wealth doesn't just demand knowledge. It demands emotional control. Because money flows to those who can think clearly under pressure. It rewards those who do not break when things get uncertain. Most people fail not because of a lack of ability, but because their emotions hijack their decisions. They act out of fear, they panic, they overreact, and in doing so, they sabotage everything they've built. Emotional control is not weakness, it is power. It's the inner calm that protects your vision when storms try to shake it. When you let emotions drive your choices, you lose your ability to calculate wisely. You sell too early because of fear. Or you spend too much because of excitement. You chase shiny objects because of impatience. You abandon your plan because you feel pressure to match what others are doing. But emotional reactions are expensive. Every time you give in to them, you pay not just financially, but mentally. Wealthy individuals don't allow the moment to control them. They pause, they assess, they respond. That pause, that breath, that self-control, that's where power lives. Emotional mastery is the difference between temporary success and long-term stability, because there will always be highs and lows in business, in investing, in life. The question is, can you stay focused when everything around you screams chaos? Can you keep your strategy intact when others are reacting blindly? Can you walk away from short-term pleasure to protect long-term gain? These are the tests wealth uses to separate the disciplined from the distracted, and only those with emotional maturity pass. This is why mindset is everything, because when your inner world is stable, your outer results follow. When you can keep your emotions in check, you make decisions from strength, not fear. You stop chasing, you stop comparing, you stop reacting. Instead, you operate with precision, with strategy, with patience. And this type of presence, this emotional discipline, is what keeps your progress intact when others are falling apart. Wealth is not just what you have in the bank. It's how calmly you can think when pressure rises, and the calmer you are, the richer your results become. You cannot attract what you do not believe you deserve. This is a truth most people avoid. They chase wealth with their actions, but they reject it in their identity. Deep down, they don't see themselves as wealthy. They don't speak the language of abundance. They don't carry the posture of someone who builds, leads, or multiplies. And as a result, their efforts feel empty. The world doesn't just respond to what you do, it responds to who you are becoming. And if your self-image is small, no amount of external hustle will create lasting success. Wealth starts with identity. If you see yourself as someone who is always struggling, always behind, always just getting by, then that reality will repeat itself. Not because you're cursed, but because your identity is stuck in limitation. You will unconsciously make decisions that match that internal script. You'll undercharge for your value. You'll sabotage good opportunities. You'll reject financial growth because it doesn't feel normal to you. The mind always tries to stay consistent with the identity it believes is true. So if you want to attract wealth, you must first align your identity with it. That means thinking, speaking, and behaving like someone who is already wealthy, not in a fake way, but in a foundational way. You begin by removing the language of lack. Stop saying, I can't afford it. Stop saying money is hard. Stop saying I'm not lucky like them. Speak the truth of who you are becoming. Tell your mind what you expect. Train your belief system to see wealth as natural, not impossible. Begin to act like someone who respects money, manages money, and multiplies money, even if your current balance doesn't show it yet. This shift is not arrogance. It's alignment. You are stepping into a new version of yourself, and that version lives with different standards. You no longer tolerate chaos. You no longer apologize for your ambition. You no longer wait for permission. You move like someone who understands that money is a tool, not a master. You become calm, focused, and strategic. And when your identity rises, your results will rise with it. Because wealth doesn't just go to the hardest worker. It goes to the one who finally believes they're ready to receive it. Wealth is not the result of one big move. It's the outcome of many small moves repeated with precision. This is the power of the compound effect. It's invisible at first. It feels slow, sometimes even pointless, but it is the most powerful force in building lasting success. Every time you take a positive action, no matter how small, it stacks, it grows, it multiplies, not in a straight line, but exponentially. And that is where most people miss the mark. They expect immediate results from actions that require time to mature, so they quit before the real growth ever begins. Compound growth doesn't just apply to money, it applies to effort, to habits, to character, to mindset. If you save a small amount every week, it compounds. If you study 1 hour every day, it compounds. If you train your focus, your patience, your self-control, it all compounds. The results won't show instantly, but when they show, they arrive with massive impact. It feels like it happens all at once, but it never does. It's the invisible result of every decision you made when no one was watching, when no one was clapping, when it was easier to do nothing. This is the law of momentum. Small disciplines, repeated daily, create unstoppable energy. That energy builds confidence. That confidence builds clarity, and that clarity drives greater decisions. You begin to elevate not because of luck, but because you stayed loyal to the right process long enough for it to reward you. Most people don't fail because they did the wrong thing. They fail because they didn't do the right thing long enough to see the reward. They uprooted the process halfway. They gave up on the compound effect just before the breakthrough. The ones who succeed are not always the smartest, the fastest, or the most connected. They are the most consistent. They understand the long game. They trust the math of small gains. They stay when others quit. And because of that, they experience what others only dream about. So start now. Make the small move. Keep doing it. Stack the tiny wins. Repeat the hidden disciplines. Because compound success always begins with small, ordinary steps, taken with extraordinary consistency. Wealth is not friendly to the lazy, and it has no sympathy for the impatient. It doesn't cater to those who want everything now, without effort, without sacrifice. The world is full of people who quit because success didn't come fast enough. They worked for a few weeks, tried a strategy, followed a routine, and when results didn't show up overnight, they gave up. But wealth doesn't answer to wishful thinking. It answers to those who are willing to stay the course long after others have surrendered. Those who are ready to be ignored, underestimated, and overlooked, yet still keep showing up. Impatience kills more dreams than failure ever will, because failure teaches, it refines. But impatience blinds you. It makes you believe that progress must be instant, or it's not working. It turns discipline into frustration and effort into exhaustion. That's why most people stay average. They chase excitement instead of execution. They want to feel something, not build something. And in the process, they keep restarting, never allowing any path to mature into success. But wealth is allergic to this mindset. It demands depth, not noise. It requires perseverance, not panic. The truth is, lazy minds avoid discomfort. They look for shortcuts, cheat codes, and loopholes. But there is no loophole in the law of consistency, no shortcut in the law of growth. You either do the work or you stay where you are. You either rise through effort or you sink through avoidance. Wealth has no patience for excuses. It has no reward for those who wait to feel ready. It comes to those who move forward whether they feel ready or not. Because action, not emotion, builds results. If you want real wealth, you have to be different. You have to love the process more than the praise. You have to work when no one is clapping. You have to keep going when it's not fun, not easy, not fast. Because that's the test. And those who pass it, those who stay when others walk away, become unstoppable. Not because they were given more, but because they demanded more from themselves. Laziness delays your destiny. Impatience steals your momentum. But discipline, endurance, and a long-term vision, that's the formula wealth respects. Wealth doesn't require you to do everything. It requires you to do the right things with ruthless focus. In a world full of distractions, the person who can lock in on one mission and stay committed to it becomes unstoppable. Most people are not failing because they lack potential. They're failing because they're scattered. They start a business, then chase another idea. They build momentum in one area, then abandon it when something new looks more exciting. Their energy is divided, their attention is stolen, and their results are weak. Focus is the hidden superpower of every wealthy mind. There's a reason top performers aren't everywhere. They're focused somewhere. They've chosen a lane. They've burned the alternatives. They've structured their life around their purpose. And while the average person is juggling 10 things and dropping all of them, the focused person is mastering one thing and turning it into gold. Wealth is the reward for strategic concentration. You don't need more hours in the day. You need fewer distractions in your day. Because clarity creates power. And the clearer you are on what matters, the more unstoppable you become. Ruthless focus means you stop negotiating with your goals. You stop entertaining distractions disguised as opportunities. You stop spreading your energy across tasks that don't move the needle. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you are saying no to the mission that could transform your life. So protect your energy. Guard your time like it's your wealth, because it is. You don't need to be everywhere, do everything, or please everyone. You need to be effective. And effectiveness comes from narrowing your focus, not widening it. The world will always offer you noise, but your power is in silence, in doing the boring work, in staying in your lane, in becoming excellent at the thing that truly matters. That's how wealth is built, not in constant motion, but in consistent direction.
So choose your path, lock in.
Eliminate the unnecessary, and don't stop. Because when your focus is pure, your results become inevitable. Repetition is the foundation of mastery, and mastery is the gateway to wealth. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle isn't intelligence, it's repetition. It's the decision to do the same important things over and over again until the result becomes automatic. Most people get bored with repetition. They want variety, they crave excitement. But wealth doesn't come from chaos, it comes from control. It comes from being so consistent with your habits that excellence becomes your default. The world respects the person who shows up daily, not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the most dependable, the person who keeps learning, keeps improving, keeps refining. That's how skill is built. That's how systems are created. That's how money begins to multiply. You don't build wealth through random bursts of effort. You build it through structured, focused, repeated action. Repetition sharpens your edge. It deepens your understanding. It makes you faster, smarter, and stronger in the areas that matter most. And over time, it separates you from everyone else who gave up when things got hard. Every great result is a result of something that was once boring. Successful people don't wait for motivation. They build routines. They develop standards. They lock into rhythms that most people ignore, because they know that greatness is hidden inside the things most people overlook. When you embrace repetition, you begin to develop something even more powerful than talent. You develop reliability. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start, the kind of person who others trust, the kind of person that wealth gravitates toward. So master the basics. Repeat the right actions. Don't let distraction pull you away from the formula that works. Even when it feels slow, stay the course. Even when the results are invisible, trust the process. Because one day those invisible repetitions will create visible transformation. You'll look back and realize that everything you dreamed of didn't come from doing more. It came from doing what mattered repeatedly. That's the secret. Repetition creates identity. Identity creates momentum. And momentum creates results. Wealth doesn't come to the person who does the most. It comes to the one who refuses to stop doing what works.